Nobody expects a Korean fermented vegetable to have anything to do with sciatica pain. Nobody connects what is happening in their gut to the burning, shooting sensation running down their leg. And yet, if you have been managing chronic sciatica for more than 3 months and your pain never fully resolves despite everything you do, there's a very real possibility that what is happening inside your gut microbiome right now is directly feeding the inflammatory environment that keeps your sciatic nerve hypersensitive around the clock. Tonight, I am introducing you to one specific fermented food, a food that contains a unique combination of live bacterial strains that research is now showing directly reduce the gut-derived inflammation that reaches the sciatic nerve through the bloodstream, not by coincidence, through a specific and measurable biological pathway. That food is kimchi. And what it does to your sciatic nerve through your gut is something that most pain specialists have never discussed with their patients. Tonight, everything, starting now. And real quick, if someone you care about has been stuck with sciatica that never fully resolves despite months of effort, pause right now and send this video to them. Because the gut connection is the piece most people never discover, and if you are not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. Every week, this channel brings you something genuinely unexpected that actually works. Now let us get into this. I want to start tonight differently from how I usually start. I do not want to begin with anatomy. I do not want to begin with mechanisms. I want to begin with a question that I have asked dozens of sciatica patients over 20 years, and that almost none of them have ever been asked before. When did you last eat something fermented? Not a supplement. Not a probiotic capsule from a pharmacy shelf, something genuinely fermented, something alive. Something whose billions of active bacterial cultures were still living and functional when they entered your digestive system. For most American seniors, the answer is, I cannot remember, or I do not eat things like that, or simply, never. And that answer, that absence of fermented food from the daily diet of most American seniors, is one of the most significant and most overlooked nutritional gaps in the management of chronic sciatica that I encounter in 20 years of practice. Let me share a story that reflects what many patients experience. All details have been changed to protect privacy. A patient came to see me, a senior in their early 70s, who described their sciatica journey with a quiet exhaustion that I recognized immediately. They had been dealing with left-sided nerve pain for approximately 2 years. They had read everything, tried everything reasonable, physical therapy, supplements, dietary changes, sleep position adjustments. Their pain had improved from its worst, they were clear about that, but it had settled into a stubborn plateau, a consistent 3 to 4 out of 10 that simply would not move lower regardless of what they added to their protocol. They were not in crisis. They were in the quiet frustration of a condition that had improved enough to be manageable but not enough to be forgotten. During our conversation, I asked about their diet in a level of detail that surprised them, not just what they ate, but how their food was prepared. Whether they ate anything raw, whether anything in their daily eating had been cultured or fermented. They thought carefully. No, their diet was clean, cooked vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, good fats, nothing processed, nothing fried, by every conventional nutritional standard, excellent. But no fermented foods, not one, not ever. I explained something that changed the entire direction of their recovery, something I want to explain to you right now. Your gut is not just a digestive organ, it is an immune organ, the largest immune organ in your entire body. Approximately 70% of your entire immune system lives in and around your gut, in the form of immune cells, lymphoid tissue, and the extraordinary community of microorganisms that together form what scientists call the gut microbiome. And the gut microbiome does not just manage digestion, it regulates inflammation across your entire body, including in the tissue surrounding your sciatic nerve. When your gut microbiome is populated by a diverse community of beneficial bacteria, particularly the lactobacillus and leuconostoc species found in traditionally fermented foods, it produces short-chain fatty acids, including butyrate, that directly suppress the inflammatory signaling pathways driving systemic inflammation. It maintains the integrity of the gut lining, preventing the microscopic gaps that allow inflammatory bacterial toxins to leak into the bloodstream. And it trains the immune system to respond to genuine threats proportionately rather than maintaining the chronic low-grade inflammatory activation that keeps the sciatic nerve in a state of persistent hypersensitivity. When the gut microbiome is depleted, when beneficial species are outnumbered by inflammatory ones due to years of antibiotic use, processed food consumption, chronic stress, and the age-related decline in microbiome diversity that affects virtually every adult over 60, all of these protective functions degrade simultaneously. Short-chain fatty acid production falls, gut lining integrity weakens, inflammatory bacterial toxins leak into the bloodstream, and the immune system shifts from proportionate response to chronic activation, maintaining the systemic inflammatory environment that reaches the sciatic nerve through the bloodstream and keeps it inflamed, sensitized, and painful regardless of what is done to address the nerve directly. Research published in the journal Gut Microbes found a significant and direct correlation between gut microbiome diversity and systemic inflammatory markers in adults over 60, with lower microbiome diversity directly associated with higher circulating levels of interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha. These are the same inflammatory cytokines found in elevated concentrations in the disc and nerve root tissue of chronic sciatica patients. The connection between a depleted gut microbiome and elevated sciatic nerve inflammatory burden is not theoretical, it is measurable. And it is addressable through the consistent daily introduction of the live bacterial strains that traditional fermented foods provide. Kimchi is one of the most specifically effective fermented foods for this purpose, and here is why it stands apart from yogurt, kefir, and other commonly available fermented options. Traditional kimchi contains a unique combination of bacterial species that most other fermented foods do not. Specifically, Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus brevis, Leuconostoc mesenteroides, and Lactobacillus sakei, strains that research has identified as particularly potent producers of the short-chain fatty acids and anti-inflammatory compounds that reduce gut permeability and suppress the systemic inflammatory signaling that drives sciatic nerve sensitization. Research published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that traditional kimchi consumption over 4 weeks produced significant reductions in serum CRP, the primary systemic inflammation marker, and measurable improvements in gut microbiome diversity in adult participants. The reductions in CRP were directly associated with improvements in gut permeability markers, confirming that kimchi's anti-inflammatory effects are mediated through its specific improvement of gut barrier function rather than through any direct anti-inflammatory mechanism in the blood. But here is what makes kimchi specifically extraordinary for sciatica patients beyond its bacterial content. Kimchi is made with cruciferous vegetables, primarily Napa cabbage and radish, that contain glucosinolates. During the fermentation process, these glucosinolates are converted by the fermenting bacteria into isothiocyanates, specifically sulforaphane, which has been shown in research published in the journal Antioxidants to directly inhibit NF-κB activation in inflammatory tissue. NF-κB is the master inflammatory transcription factor controlling the production of virtually every major pro-inflammatory cytokine in sciatic nerve root tissue. Kimchi therefore provides both a gut microbiome restoration benefit through its live bacterial strains and a direct nerve tissue anti-inflammatory benefit through the sulforaphane produced during fermentation. A dual action that no probiotic supplement, no yogurt, and no kefir provides in the same combination. Additionally, kimchi contains a specific compound called HDMPPA, hydroxydimethyl pentanedioic acid, that research published in the journal Food Science and Biotechnology identified as a potent inhibitor of arachidonic acid inflammatory cascade, the same cascade that produces the prostaglandins and leukotrienes that sensitize sciatic nerve endings. This compound is produced exclusively during kimchi fermentation. It is found in no other food and in no supplement. It represents one of the most uniquely specific anti-inflammatory compounds available from any dietary source, and it exists only in properly fermented kimchi. The patient whose story opened tonight came back to see me 8 weeks after I introduced kimchi into their daily protocol. They sat down, they paused, and then they said something I have heard variations of many times over 20 years, usually when a patient has discovered the intervention that finally moved the needle after everything else plateaued. They said, "My gut feels different, and my back feels different, and I think those two things are connected." They are. in ways that are now documented in peer-reviewed research and in ways that 20 years of clinical observation have confirmed to me personally. Their pain score at that 8-week follow-up was 1.8, down from the plateau of 3 to 4 that had resisted everything for 2 years. One intervention. A fermented vegetable, eaten every day, changing the gut environment that was maintaining the sciatic nerve's inflammatory burden from the inside. Here is exactly how to use kimchi for sciatica, with every practical detail you need to start tomorrow. Buy traditionally fermented kimchi, not the pasteurized version sold in regular supermarket aisles in sealed jars. Pasteurized kimchi has been heat-treated to extend shelf life, a process that kills the live bacterial cultures that provide the microbiome restoration benefit. You need raw, unpasteurized kimchi with active live cultures. This is available in the refrigerated section of Korean grocery stores, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and many mainstream supermarkets across America. Look specifically for products that say raw, unpasteurized, or contains live cultures on the label. Brands including Wild Brine, Lucky Foods, and Tabagi all offer refrigerated, unpasteurized kimchi widely available across America. Eat 2 to 3 tablespoons of kimchi every single day with your largest meal. The meal context matters. Eating kimchi alongside a substantial meal provides the dietary fiber and prebiotic compounds that feed and support the beneficial bacterial strains kimchi introduces. Kimchi eaten alone on an empty stomach passes through the digestive system too quickly for optimal microbiome impact. Eaten with a fiber-rich meal, the bacterial strains have sustained contact with the gut lining and access to the prebiotic substrates they need to establish and proliferate in the gut microbiome. If the flavor of kimchi is initially too strong or too spicy, which many American seniors find at first, start with 1 tablespoon mixed into a grain bowl, a soup, or a salad dressing. The spice level becomes significantly more palatable within the first week of daily consumption as the palate adjusts. Alternatively, look for mild kimchi or white kimchi, baek kimchi, which is made without chili and provides the same bacterial strain benefits with a much milder flavor profile. Give the protocol a minimum of 4 weeks before evaluating your sciatica pain results. Gut microbiome restoration is a gradual process. Diverse beneficial bacterial populations take time to establish themselves at meaningful concentrations. Most patients notice digestive improvements: reduced bloating, more regular bowel movements, improved digestive comfort within the first 2 weeks. Sciatica pain improvements typically follow in weeks 3 and 4 as the reduction in gut. Derived systemic inflammation begins to measurably reduce the inflammatory burden on the sciatic nerve. To amplify the results of your daily kimchi, add 1 tablespoon of organic apple cider vinegar to a glass of water and drink it 30 minutes before your largest meal on the days you eat kimchi. Apple cider vinegar's acetic acid content directly enhances the survival of lactobacillus strains through the stomach acid environment, increasing the proportion of kimchi's live bacterial cultures that survive to reach the large intestine where they exert their microbiome restoration effects. This simple addition requires 30 seconds and costs less than 2 cents per serving, and it meaningfully increases the therapeutic impact of every tablespoon of kimchi you eat. In 20 years of practice, the sciatica patients who plateau, who improve but never fully resolve, almost always have an unaddressed systemic inflammatory driver that their back-focused treatments cannot reach. For many of them, that driver is the gut, the depleted microbiome flooding the bloodstream with inflammatory compounds that reach the sciatic nerve and keep it sensitized regardless of how many supplements address it from the outside. Kimchi addresses that driver from the inside, through the gut, through the microbiome, through the most direct pathway to systemic inflammatory reduction available in any whole food, 2 to 3 tablespoons every single day, with your largest meal starting tomorrow. And give your sciatic nerve's inflammatory environment the dietary intervention it has been waiting for. Now, before you go, drop a comment right now and tell me your age and your city. And tell me, have you ever eaten kimchi before? Did you ever imagine that a Korean fermented vegetable could have anything to do with your sciatica? I read every single comment personally. Share this with someone whose sciatica has plateaued despite doing everything right. Subscribe and turn on notifications. because every week this channel brings you something equally unexpected and equally practical. 2 tablespoons with your largest meal every day, starting tomorrow. Your gut and your sciatic nerve are more connected than you ever imagined. This video is for general educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice and does not create a doctor-patient relationship. All patient stories in this video are composites and have been altered to protect privacy. Any resemblance to a specific individual is unintentional. Kimchi is a fermented food containing live bacterial cultures. Individuals with severely compromised immune systems should consult their healthcare provider before consuming unpasteurized fermented foods. Kimchi contains significant sodium. Those managing hypertension or kidney conditions should account for this in their daily sodium intake. Always consult your qualified healthcare provider before making significant dietary changes. Dr. Michael Kent is a senior health educator with 20 years of experience in senior wellness. Nothing here intends to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any condition. Viewer discretion advised.